Could Congress actually get something done on housing costs? Looks like they're close. Vice President Vance is in Switzerland to continue keeping Iran peace talks on track, and Democrats keep using the pulpit to mask their sins. It's Monday, June 22nd. This is news and commentary from America's Heartland. Welcome in to Heartlander News. Well, hey there, and welcome to Heartlander News. Hope you're keeping up to date all the time, every day, with all the latest news at heartlandernews.com. I'm Chris Stigall. Over the weekend, more back and forth on lasting peace with Iran as Vice President J.D. Vance headed to Switzerland. Back here at home, war hawks and Trump critics working hard to characterize the talks. We start with the former national security advisor, one of the most angry and loathsome creatures to ever come out of government, Susan Rice, trying to characterize what's going on in Iran.
Isn't a weak peace agreement better than a resumption of a war, which I know you opposed from the start?
I opposed this war because it was a stupid war. And it was obvious that when you wage a stupid war, that every prior president had the wisdom to avoid, that you were going to end up with either bad outcomes or worse outcomes.
So this ends what you saw as a stupid war.
It ends a stupid war, which you get bad outcomes or worse outcomes. This is a very bad outcome. I obviously think we shouldn't have been in this war in the first place because it was obvious for decades that the only way to resolve this problem is through diplomacy. And now we're back to diplomacy with a far weaker hand. Yes, their military has been degraded, but Iran has now figured out they can use the Strait of Hormuz to hold us and the global economy hostage anytime they want. And they've been playing that game over the last 48 hours.
Yeah, so the national security advisor to Barack Obama thinks that they just figured out the Strait of Hormuz is something that they could leverage. It's so stupid. If she were at all honest, what she should know, and I'm sure does know, and what most common sense people understand is Iran was on a path to not only weaponize themselves to a degree that we couldn't ever come back from it, they could defend themselves with nukes in perpetuity, and there's nothing anybody could have done to stop them had President Trump not acted. But they were well aware that once they achieved that, as Marco Rubio has said repeatedly, that's when they could lock down the Strait of Hormuz. Nothing anybody could do about it, and $8, $9, $10 a gallon gas was going to be a reality in perpetuity. That's what we knew. She's acting like this is something that all of a sudden the Iranians thought, you know what? If the United States gets tough on us, we could just shut down the strait. Hey, good idea, fellas. That hadn't occurred to us. Of course, what we know is allies and moderate Muslim countries who are running oil out of the strait are actively trying to create new ways, new venues to get oil to market. At present, that's the plan. OPEC is greatly hobbled by this entire ordeal, and there are new ways as we speak. The global energy market, as we speak, is being re-engineered with these moves in Iran. That's the real story. And while it's not going to happen overnight, the real story is we're not going to be in a place down the road where Iran has the capability to hold the globe hostage with the strait. That's the point. Now, having said all that, on the other side of this are the war hawks, the Lindsey Graham types. And this actually, you know, it's interesting. You probably heard much criticism about President Trump even going into Iran to begin with. But President Trump was always clear about what he wanted to do. Disarm Iran, weaken them, take out their nuclear capability, take out their drone capability, take out their navy. It was never even about regime change, but it was about weakening them so they could not hold us hostage in the future. People like Lindsey Graham, on the other hand, they offer the entirely opposite point of view of Susan Rice. Susan Rice hates President Trump and everything he's trying to do to hobble Iran. It appears that Senator Graham is not satisfied until President Trump has turned Iran into a parking lot. Here he is.
Let's try a diplomatic solution. I think it's going to fail. What happens next? I spent 4.5 hours with President Trump Friday. Here's what I think will happen next. If this deal fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz over by force. The United States will control the Strait of Hormuz. We'll charge a fee for all those who go through through to pay for the operation. And we're going to expand the Abraham Accords in calendar year 2026. We're going to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords, and which is the biggest change in 5,000 years in the Mideast. And if Iran contests control of the Strait of Hormuz by the United States, we'll obliterate them. So to all the people listening, if this diplomatic effort fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. We're going to run it. We're going to try to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords to end the Arab-Israeli conflict in 2026. And if Iran continues to attack Israel and Lebanon, the new policy will be, we'll hit Iran. So to the Iranians, if you're listening, when you use Hezbollah to attack Israel, I think the new policy will be, we will attack Iran.
So Lindsey Graham, never particularly helpful either. It's interesting how both he and Susan Rice have made President Trump seem like the problem-solving centrist yet again, which is great news for President Trump. But look, picture this. A terrorist regime racing toward a nuclear bomb, pockets stuffed with Western cash, its proxies spreading chaos everywhere from Lebanon to Yemen, and the mullahs basically daring the world to stop them. Well, that's exactly what Barack Obama handed us with his 2015 Iran deal that lunatic Susan Rice oversaw that you heard from earlier. Fast forward to today, that same regime has its nuclear program smashed to bits, its terror network on its knees, and its leaders are hiding in bunkers wondering what hit them. That turnaround is pure Donald Trump. Maximum pressure, real strength, no more pathetic handouts. Obama's JCPOA was a classic enabling. Iran walked in with thousands of centrifuges spinning, piles of enriched uranium growing, and a breakout time getting shorter by the day. And what did Obama do in response to that? What did he give them? He gave them sanctions relief and over $100 billion in frozen assets unlocked. Now, that money, of course, didn't go to hospitals or schools. Where did it go? It went straight into Hezbollah's rocket stockpiles. It went into Hamas tunnels. It went into Houthi attacks on shipping, Iranian missiles tearing up Iraq and Syria, And this deal had sunset clauses in it. It ignored ballistic missiles. And basically, it told the mullahs, go ahead, just behave for a few years. Then you can do whatever you want. And they did. Iran didn't get constrained by Barack Obama and Susan Rice. It got subsidized. They got richer. They got bolder and dangerously close to a bomb. Conservatives have been saying this for years. Obama didn't negotiate peace. He funded their next war. And so in comes President Trump, and he looks at this mess, and he said, enough's enough. He ripped up the deal from 2018. He slammed sanctions back on Iran. He hit the Islamic Guard of Iran hard, and he refused to play their game. In his second term, when push came to shove, Donald Trump and Israel, they didn't blink. They launched strikes that took out their nuclear sites in Iran, the crown jewels of their nuclear program decimated. The IRGC's commanders gone. Their Navy basically sunk. Missile factories wrecked. The nuclear dream they had was set back for years, maybe decades. No endless occupation, no American ground troops, just decisive American and Israeli power. And look at the results. Iran's so-called axis of resistance, it's crumbled. Hezbollah and Hamas got pummeled. Proxy money dried up because oil sales got choked off. The regime cracking internally, no matter what you're told or what you're hearing, that's just true. By mid-2026, Iran was forced into a ceasefire that reopened the Strait of Hormuz on our terms. Now, granted, they're still threatening, and we'll get into that in a minute. But the key is here, this time it was different. These terms, this deal, this conversation that's happening now, it didn't depend on pallets of cash like Obama sent. No blank checks, just verifiable steps, or the pressure will stay. The market didn't collapse. Oil didn't stay sky high. Russia and China lost leverage, actually. Deterrence, it's a thing. It actually worked again. Obama, meanwhile, treated Iran like a misunderstood friend. Trump treated it like the vicious threat they are, and they broke their backs. President Trump and his administration absolutely broke the back of Iran. One man, Barack Obama, empowered the world's top terror sponsor. The other neutered it. One man made the Middle East more dangerous. The other made it safer for America, Israel, and everyone tired of Iran's madness. That includes their moderate neighbors. This isn't complicated. Weakness invites war. Strength, on the other hand, delivers peace. And Trump has proved this. He confronted evil instead of funding it. And the region and the world are breathing easier because of it. Peace through strength is not a bumper sticker. It's a winning strategy. And Trump, I believe, is in the midst of proving it again. From Axios and the very latest, J.D. Vance this morning says that the strait is open and that Iran is still very much at the table. They have not walked out, per some other reports. U.S. and Iranian negotiators held marathon talks in Switzerland into last night, reports Axios, as they work to launch a 60-day effort toward a new nuclear agreement. The talks with Vice President J.D. Vance, White House envoy Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner continuing through last night. Iran's initial claim was they were closing the strait in response to the alleged Israeli ceasefire violations in Lebanon. As negotiations started at Lake Lucerne in Switzerland on Saturday, President Trump issued several threats to Iran, both on his Truth Social account and in interviews with Fox News. Iranian officials rejected Trump's threats in public, but also raised the matter in private during the talks, saying they violated blah, blah, blah. A source from one of the mediating countries and a U.S. diplomat said that although Iranian officials told traveling reporters they pulled out of the talks in protest, they did not. They just did so, I guess, ceremoniously for a bit, but the talks continued throughout the day. The U.S. diplomat said one of the issues during the discussions was de-confliction mechanisms in Lebanon and enforcing the ceasefire. A source from one of the mediating countries said the discussion about Lebanon was tense. Talks focused on all elements of the nuclear deal. The two sides discussed implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding. Officials discussed a framework for continuing talks between political leaders and technical teams, so on and so forth. So we will continue to monitor that here, of course, but big news, and I think it's going to end up ultimately being lasting, simply because Iran has no choice. I mean, yeah, they can maybe pop off a shot or two in the Strait of Hormuz. Lindsey Graham says that if they try it, though, we'll just go in and control it. That's the problem. The political will here at home for President Trump to ratchet this thing up back to a 10, maybe deploy physical force there. I don't think the country has the appetite for that either. The president and his team know that. I think Iran knows that. So it's a little sticky in that the Lindsey Graham types would say, and I have heard this from some critics, by the way, I've heard this from pro-Trump critics who say they wanted to see Trump absolutely decimate Iran, not just in terms of their function with nukes and others, but wanted to see their regime topple, wanted to see a new secular government take hold. And I just say in response to that, that was never President Trump's goal. He never said he wanted to do that. Regime change wars, as they liked to call that. Tulsi Gabbard was critical of that. Many Trump supporters were critical of that. They were tired of, quote, stupid wars. Susan Rice taking a page from many people on the right who felt that all the years of Bush in the Middle East, for instance, stupid wars. We got 13 of our service personnel killed when Joe Biden exited Afghanistan in a hasty retreat after a 20-year meat grinder that produced really not much at all. And so the American public, the voter, sick and tired of endless, stupid wars. The left is simply trying to capitalize on that exhaustion. President Trump had a very specific, very calculated, very surgical thinking way in which he wanted to tackle Iran. It was never meant to be an ongoing battle. And look, do I wish that Iran's mullahs, do I wish that, and by the way, most of their senior leadership has been killed and destroyed, but they are still very much a theocracy. That's not going away. That's true. And there are many of us, and I'm one, who wishes Iran was not a theocracy, who wishes Islamism was not ruling Iran. I do wish that were true. And as long as Islamism does rule Iran, does the possibility exist that they continue to be bad actors and they don't mean us well and we can't trust them? Yeah, I think that possibility is quite high. J.D. Vance and the Trump administration continue to say, trust but verify. We're going to give them a chance now that we've completely decimated them. We're going to give them a chance to work with us in good faith. Most people don't believe they will work in good faith. 50 years of dealing with Iran tells us they won't. I don't know. But as I say, Lindsey Graham wants to go headlong in there right now, send our troops in, conquer the Strait, conquer Iran, level them into a parking lot, conquer Karg Island, and occupy it. That's not who we are. That's not what this country is. We're not a nation of occupiers. We've never been. That's not our goal. It wasn't President Trump's goal. Peace through strength. That's what President Trump is trying to leverage here. I think we have some neighbors of Iran that are going to come in big play here, Saudi Arabia chief among them. So I remain optimistic here. I don't think it's going to be easy, to be sure, but I'm optimistic, and gas prices continue to fall, and that's a very good thing for all of us. A little more on the Dr. Fauci story. You know, Friday we talked about Tulsi releasing this report as she was on her way out the door. This from the New York Post. Outgoing Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard releasing a trove of files heading into the weekend, and we covered it here. Go back and catch the show if you didn't. Related to Anthony Fauci's role in the COVID pandemic, showing that officials protected him from a whistleblower complaint alleging he lied to Congress about gain-of-function research. The guy's a bad guy. He got a pardon from Biden, one of the auto pen pardons. We all know that now. Again, remember, James Comey himself said that if you accept a pardon, you're admitting there's something from which you need to be pardoned. You're accepting and admitting guilt effectively. Dr. Fauci knew he was hip deep in a scandal here. Just a little reminder, I came across this over the weekend and I thought it worth playing. Now that we know the guy's a bad guy, he asked for a pardon, received one, is now in hiding, and we now know is taking taxpayer money and monkeying around with gain-of-function research, despite being told previously not to, even by Obama. By the way, look that up. Even under Barack Obama, Anthony Fauci was slapped down and told, do not do gain-of-function research. He fired it right back up again when President Trump became president. Anyway, just a little reminder, a walk down memory lane, number 19 here, of where we used to be with Dr. Fauci not too terribly long ago. He was quite a hero. They made bobbleheads of him. They stitched his face on pillows. He was the Mr. Rogers of our era, not but a few years ago, this loathsome little toad. Remember?
The most respected voice in the pandemic. It's Dr. Anthony Fauci.
The man who's become known as America's doctor.
The nation's top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci.
You are seen to many as a superhero.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, American hero and New York Yankee fan.
You've done so much for this country in terms of this crisis, so I really appreciate your insight.
Who better to give us answers that we can trust than Dr. Anthony Fauci?
The perfect person to answer our questions today. Joining us now, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, appreciate your candor.
Dr. Fauci, appreciate the candor.
We appreciate your service to this country.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Greatly appreciate your service to America.
Thank you for your 37 years of service, I believe, to 7 presidents, and thank you for your work over the past year.
The great news is you're sticking around in the Biden administration. We are so grateful to you, Dr. Fauci, for everything you do.
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you very much for everything that you do.
Thanks so much for the work that you do.
Thank you very much for the reassurance and, as always, for all of your public service. Thank you, Dr. Fauci.
Thank you for all your guidance this past year, and it's greatly appreciated.
Dr. Fauci, on behalf of all of our viewers here in the U.S. and around the world, thanks very much for doing what you're doing. Thanks very much for joining us. Please thank your entire team as well. We are all grateful.
Get your rest because we need you.
You are one of the busiest scientists in the country right now. It is an honor to have some of your time to help us understand what is going on. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, so we appreciate your time, sir.
We need people to continue to have faith in science. So thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for being straight with us. Thank you for being able to come on. You will always have this show as a platform.
Sir, whenever you can be here, we'll have you. It's always an honor to have time with you. Thanks for being here.
It's good enough for you, sir. It's good enough for me and my family. So thank you, Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, thank you for keeping it straight. Thank you for fighting the good fight.
I am sincerely appreciative that you are not walking away from this post. You make us smarter and safer and better every day. Thank you so much, Dr. Fauci.
Oh, dear. Remember that? It's sickening. It's it's sickening to even watch. But that's where we were, not but just a few years ago. We now know the guy was probably responsible for inflicting the very illness that he was claiming to fight, that all of those fawning, adoring fans on cable news and network news gushing over him and his help and how much smarter we all are because of him. The guy maybe actually created the very thing, oversaw with your tax money the creation of the very thing that he was pretending to help treat. And we, as a country, followed those lemmings, a lot of us, right off the cliff. Maybe not you, maybe not me, but a whole lot of people did, your friends and your neighbors. They just believed that this guy, because they were told so, was a good guy. And he wasn't. It was a total media fiction and creation from the jump. And it's worth remembering. It's worth bringing up. It's worth revisiting. We cannot forget that era. We cannot ever allow one little guy who's simply been a bureaucrat for decades to surface and tell us all what we must do with our bodies and our health and our freedom of movement and assembly and our businesses and our houses of worship and our schools. We can't allow one little bureaucrat ever again to rise up and say, here's what you must do in order to stay safe. Even when the media en masse cheers him on and hoists them on their shoulders as a hero, we can't fall for that again. It's important that we remind ourselves of that and never forget it. And I am grateful to Tulsi Gabbard on her way out the door that she reminded us of that. Meanwhile, to the SAVE Act. There is a great deal of debate about whether the SAVE Act can happen or not. Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, is on X with regularity, blasting away that he believes John Thune can get this thing done. John Thune and leadership, if that's what you want to call it, in the Senate, Republicans, they say, no, we can't get it done. But because Mike Lee continues to push on it, it seems there's getting it's getting traction, and there are a lot of people laying hard on Thune and the Republicans to consider it. The pressure is mounting. The Republicans need something to engender enthusiasm amongst their voters, particularly on the Senate side. And the SAVE Act could really be the ticket, because not only is it the right thing to do, but it's an 80-20 issue, as we've talked about. Most of the country totally supports it. Well, Chuck Schumer, it should come as no surprise, is aware that momentum is building amongst the electorate, ringing their senators on Capitol Hill and telling them, get this thing done. So Schumer is trying his level best to stave that off as the minority leader here in number 14.
This is this horrible thing to say that one of the worst, most anti-election democracy thing that's ever been proposed. They say it's all about ID, voter ID. It's not. They will remove 25 million people off the rolls. Why? Because they'll require, under this act, which is not going to pass, and we're not going to let it pass. We've defeated in court. I was a lead plaintiff in the decision to do that. We've refused to give them the votes that they would want for this. We never will. What it does is it says every state send your election rolls not to the Justice Department or the voting division, but to the Department of Homeland Security, where Musk and Doge and Vote have installed an algorithm that determines whether you're legitimately right to vote or not. The algorithm is a fix. It'll knock 20 million people, 30 million people off the rolls, and they don't tell you. So Mr. Lawrence O'Donnell could show up at the same voting place he showed up every so often, shown his same ID. Sorry, you're not on the rolls anymore, sir. Well, what do I do about it? Next week, go to the Board of Elections. Trump knows he will lose the election. He said it because he has created such chaos, and because we Democrats have shown what we're for and the contrast between what we're for and he's for, and there's such a contrast. And so he's got to fix it. We're not letting him do it.
So one of the things...
Right. All the while he's looking down at the desk. He can't even look Lawrence O'Donnell in the eye when he says that nonsense. Here is the reaction by Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee to Chuck Schumer there.
out and show that the Democrats have been blocking that. And I just think, the Save America Act, I believe it's called. But anyway, you don't know what I'm talking about. You've got to show a birth certificate to play Little League Baseball in America. And yet now here we are, the Democrats are fighting us, saying it's going to cost millions of people the right to vote. Well, those millions of people happen to be illegals and dead. So those are the two categories that they're blocking. So and we're doing a terrible job at messaging that. For some reason, we don't want to get our hands dirty. And then you look at what's happened in New York. They're electing literally openly Marxist people out.
Yep. He's right. So the voter is very, very clear about what they want here. And Thune is really up against it. He continues to run around saying, we don't have the votes. We don't have the votes. Mike Lee is a real thorn in the side of Republicans as he continues to say, oh, yes, we do. And I think Chuck Schumer's worried here. Of course, he claims 25 million people will be thrown from the voter rolls. What Chuck Schumer is worried about and what he knows is, and there's an active investigation underway right now, yet everybody from illegals to homeless voting and being paid to do so in places like California. It is terrifying to the Democrat Party if it is actually implemented that we must produce identification to vote in this country. Now, he knows good and well people can fill out provisional ballots, and those ballots can be analyzed if there's a problem, and we can legally determine whether they're to be counted or not. Provisional votes and provisional ballots are a thing. That's the fix. The idea that the other way is the better way, and that is anyone can vote at any time they want without any proof of who they are, is just dishonest and stupid. Byron Donalds, running for governor down there in Florida, number 17, had this to add on the issue.
I hear that you need an ID to be able to enter the facility. How ironic that you need an ID to get in there, but the same Democratic Party, still in some respects led by Barack Obama, does not want voter ID throughout the United States of America. I also wonder if they're going to have a time capsule exhibit on the price of healthcare before his healthcare plan went into effect, and it's driven up premiums and deductibles for Americans, rich or poor, black or white, all across this country. So I think it's indicative that the rental rates are going up because of this library, because the healthcare rates have gone up because of his healthcare policy, and that's been to the detriment of every American.
It's such a great
look.
I liked that point. You need identification just to enter Barack Hussein Obama's ugly new library. It's a great point, and it's just true. You and I both know it, whether you want to buy a plane ticket, buy a bottle of booze, name it, buy a gun, you got to show identification. But somehow when you vote, Democrats aren't interested, and we all know why. Speaking of the Obama Museum and Library, that god-awful, gaudy thing, Bill Maher took a shot at it this weekend. Pretty funny. Give me number 16 here.
Do we have a picture of the Obama Library? Because it looks like
Death Star.
It looks like something aliens built in Dubai.
I like it.
Why do it cost $850 million?
Yeah.
I don't understand why progressives like this. Couldn't that, money be better spent on something else? Who's going to go to this? Why do we need a president?
Well, what do you think?
Why does anyone need a presidential library? These monuments to somebody's ego out of office. Are you? Anybody here in this audience planning to go to the Obama presidential library?
Sure. There you go.
Really?
Bill, come on.
What a bunch of flyers you are. You're not going to the Obama library.
Time.
You guys.
You're a bunch of effing liars, says Bill Maher. I agree. I'd take that bet. I don't think most people are going to that library. It's one of the ugliest, most unappealing looking things. I couldn't imagine going to that thing. Why in the world would you go? In a beautiful city like Chicago, I like that. It looks like something aliens built in Dubai. I was talking with somebody over the weekend about this monument to self in politics. Politicians that, add on to buildings or build bridges or build buildings and then slap their name on it before they're even dead. It's one thing if a group of people get together and decide they want to honor a politician for their service and slap their name on something or whatever. But isn't it unseemly and just gross when you think about it that politicians like to slap their name on things? I've never had much time for it. I think it's done purely out of ego. It's very Egyptian I think. It's this idea of, building the pyramids or, these golden caskets or whatever. It's all rooted in that idea that somehow we can hang on and continue to live forever or something. And of course, that the only way you can live forever is turning your life over to Jesus Christ. And it isn't about being here. This world is just a vapor. So it's temporal. We're all going to turn into dust. None of this stuff matters. That's why it's all so foolish and silly. I mean, Bill Maher is right. $800 million, hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. How could that have better been spent? Speaking of Christian faith, apropos of nothing, I wouldn't know where else to put this, but I thought it was an interesting thing I wanted to call your attention to today from the Daily Signal. Can Christians support Pride Month? That's the headline. Can Christians support Pride Month? All right, I'll admit it. I'm hooked. What does that mean exactly? Pride Month is difficult to avoid, writes Thomas Griffin. Whether you're logging onto your Hulu account, listening to the radio, shopping online, it seems many organizations support June's dedication to same-sex marriage and transgenderism. Navigating the cultural support of the issue as a Christian can be complex and practically challenging. It is important to understand why Christians cannot support Pride Month and to be able to explain the reasons charitably and logically. To do this, we must use language precisely to speak about true love. And he goes on to say, and I think this is important. First of all, I'm glad the hook was a catchy one. Can Christians support Pride Month? Of course, I, as a Christian, took the bait and read this column because I thought, surely this is not going to be a Christian trying to suggest that you can. And of course, he says right off the top that no, you cannot. But he makes the point you got to do so in love. The Christian understanding of marriage is rooted in biblical clarity. God created everything, human beings, in his likeness. We're made for communion. We're given the capacities for reason, freedom, and love. In these ways, we can see that we are made like God. God created human beings, male and female. When husband and wife join together, new life can emerge. Love between a husband and wife is so great, it can result in other human beings in the likeness of God. Most people understand these realities intuitively. Few have ever reflected on them deeply and lack the language to explain them. The Catholic Church uses the language of unitive and procreative aspects of marriage. Marriage must be between a man and a woman because only two members of the opposite sex can truly unite with one another physically for a sexual act. Marriage is also founded upon a couple's distinctive embrace, which has the unique capacity for procreation. The human person is male and female. Male and female come together to form new life. One of the most famous articulations of the Christian view of sexuality is that of Pope John Paul and his groundbreaking theology of the body. In it, he says, quote, "We can deduce that man became the image of God, not through his own humanity, but also through the communion of persons which man and woman form from the very beginning." I'm skipping ahead. You can read this entire thing, and I think it's an important read. But anyway, here's how he concludes. Nothing about the Christian view of sexuality is intended to offend those who experience same-sex attraction or know and love someone who is civilly married to someone of the same sex. A Christian response to Pride Month must be concerned with speaking the truth in love. Truth is the mind's conformity to reality. Love is willing the good of the other. Living in accordance with the reality of our bodies can cultivate a healthier nation full of healthier marriages. The healthiest and truest context for family is reliance on God, who is truth and love. When we ask God for strength to love those closest to us, he will empower us to impact their lives and spread his love, no matter what month it is. Good for Thomas Griffin. Catchy headline at the Daily Signal. I commend this entire piece to you. It's called, "Can Christians Support Pride Month?" It's a worthwhile read. And of course, telling the truth in love is the most important thing. And the loving truth of Christ, the biblical word of God, is the ultimate in love. I think it's important. Doesn't mean you have to be nasty. Doesn't mean you have to be hateful. But telling the truth is the loving thing to do. What is not loving? Take to the pulpit as a Democrat and lie your face off, as John Ossoff did. He's lying his face off here. Here's John Ossoff going to church today, smearing Mike Collins, the Republican nominee, going to face off with Ossoff in the Senate race this fall. Church pulpit now, mind you. Senator Ossoff, here we go.
Hatred that Mike Collins promotes is a relic of the bad old days. Right. Georgia's spirit of tolerance will overwhelm and defeat bigotry. Amen. And our defense of voting rights will be as the hate.
That's a church service on Father's Day. You know, I attend a church where candidates are recognized, but never from the pulpit, because my pastor doesn't believe in ceding the pulpit to political figures, no matter who they are, even sitting members of Congress. Even if the President of the United States were to enter my church, our pastor would acknowledge him, ask him to stand, greet him warmly with applause, and then continue on with the service. My pastor does not believe in ceding the pulpit to a political figure. Democrats, they'll use anything, including the pulpit. Just something to consider. Here's a little more from the Reverend Ossoff. Now, of course, he's not really a reverend, but his colleague in the Senate, Raphael Warnock, is a pretend pastor. I don't know if this is his church or not, but that's apparently the thing to do now for Democrats. Pretend you're a pastor or take over a pulpit for the day. Here's a little more.
So here we are in Georgia, where the president sent spies and agents to seize your ballots. Did you all see that, Beulah? Yeah. And why did they go to Fulton County? Why Fulton County? I submit to you it's because the fact that black voters and black political power were instrumental to his defeat is even more offensive to this lifelong racist than the defeat itself. The election deniers. They tell a lie so absurd and therefore so debasing to tell that the act of telling it proves the teller's total and humiliating submission. And you may have seen that one of those election deniers now asks to represent Georgia in the Senate. The congressman's son, who supports war and cutting your health care and openly associates himself with bigotry and anti-Semitism, who defends the violent mob that sacked the Capitol on the morning of January 6th, 2021. Do you remember that morning, Beulah? To this day, this man makes excuses for those who carried out an attack to throw out your votes and install a defeated president. But Beulah, he forgets your power. He forgets your power. Because not only did their attack on the Capitol fail, it was early that same morning, 5 years ago, that the state of Georgia shocked the world and sent to the Senate the young Jewish son of an immigrant and a black pastor who holds Dr. King's pulpit at Ebenezer Baptist Church. The same morning.
Okay, that's enough. I can't. It's hard for me to express how repugnant I find that, and not just because of the politics, not just because of the lies, but it's from a church pulpit. I mean, there is zero acknowledgement of a higher power. Talking about their power. I mean, there are a few ironies there, of course. President Trump won Georgia. And he's also pointing out about how the election was stolen, and then commending the fact that he and his colleague Warnock both won the Senate at the same time that Trump, quote, lost Georgia, and were both placed in the United States Senate. So how do you figure? I mean, it's also stupid, but really the most brazen, the most disgusting is, this is a guy using a church service to politic. It's brazen. We know they do it. They've always done it, but I don't know. I think about people like Don Lemon storming into a church service this year and interrupting a service, not preaching politics, That was just a regular worship service on a regular Sunday in Minneapolis. And Don Lemon and a bunch of goons stormed in because one of the pastors involved in the church service also happened to be employed by or worked alongside ICE in trying to execute federal law and crack down on illegal immigration. And Don Lemon and his goons storm into a church and disrupt the service, a service that had nothing to do with politics at all, just worshiping Christ. And to date, nobody's been punished for that, really. I think there'll be some charges filed, and that's a good thing, and we'll continue to follow it because there has to be punishment for it. Democrats, it's when it comes to their politics and church, they just do it. They just dedicate whole services to their politics. Jesus can take a seat. It's really quite something. Speaking of Don Lemon, apparently he's still doing a show or something, I guess. Did you know that? I had no idea. Do you know, Aaron, is he actually physically doing a show still? The Don Lemon show, I guess, online or something? Is that true?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
based on this clip, it looks like it.
I had no idea he still had a show. Well, apparently he does. And hard pressed for guests. Kamala Harris is back. She is traveling the country, and she is still spewing the word salad. The salad shooter, Kamala Harris, on Hope with Don Lemon.
I really, truly believe this. We each have light inside of us. And we need to know that that is what inspires our hope as much as anything external to ourselves. And when we feel that and not allow an election or an individual to dampen that light, and instead let that light kind of carry us, in particular through moments of darkness, that we not only act on that hope, but we inspire that hope in each other. And in particular at this moment, it is so important that we not only have hope, but that we understand that that should be a verb. I really, truly believe that.
I have no idea what she just said. Do you? Let me see. Do I have the transcript of that? Let me look. And when we feel that and not allow an election or individual to dampen that light, and instead let that light kind of carry us, in particular through moments of darkness, that we not only act on that hope, but we inspire that hope in each other. And in particular, at this moment, it is so important that we not only have hope, but that we understand that that should be a verb. Aaron, are you doing all right in there? Do you feel inspired? You want to put that on a poster or something like Successories, hang that on your wall, inspire your week ahead?
I don't know. I got so distracted by after she says, we all have hope or light inside us, and then looks up at the camera or screen like she just dropped some amazing, line of wisdom and like almost waiting for a reaction. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I used to play on my old radio show. I used to play what I called the Kamala Harris Moment of Zen, and we would just play that and some spa music underneath it to kind of help people decompress, to get their day started. Just kind of deep breathing exercises. It's really very therapeutic. Take Kamala Harris. Let's listen to that again, and I want you to just, think of it. Maybe find some spa music. If you're watching this or listening to this, maybe play a little piano or something softly underneath and just listen to it. And when you listen to it in that way, it's kind of, it lulls you into a peace. Listen to Kamala Harris one more time here. This is good to kick off the week with this, actually. I'd forgotten that bit. This might help us all lower the blood pressure a little bit. Kamala Harris, Moment of Zen.
I really, truly believe this. We each have light inside of us. And we need to know that that is what inspires our hope as much as anything external to ourselves.
Deep breathing.
And
out.
when we feel that and not allow an election or an individual to dampen that light.
And
instead let that light kind of carry us in particular through moments of darkness.
And out.
That we not only act on that hope, but we inspire that hope in each other. And in particular at this moment,
that's nice.
it is so important that we not only have hope, but that we understand that that should be a verb.
Yes. Well, I hope that helped you as much as it helped me. That felt great. Little babbling brook there. Nice touch, Aaron. So it's a great way to start off your week. Lower the blood pressure, make you feel good about things. Nobody knows exactly what she says, but it's deeply meditative, and we thank the former vice president for her efforts. The Southern Poverty Law Center. This from the Daily Signal. Tricking corporate America to blacklist conservatives. Major employers systematically, through perhaps unintentional means, blacklisted conservative nonprofits from their employee charitable giving programs through a third party. Corporate generosity platforms such as Benevity, I guess it's called, act as a middleman connecting employers like AT&T, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Starbucks to a host of nonprofits. Benevity, for example, connects nearly 1,000 enterprise companies to a network of 513,000 nonprofits. But these middlemen platforms often refuse to partner with mainstream conservative or Christian nonprofits because yet another third party, the Southern Poverty Law Center, put those nonprofits on a hate map with chapters of the KKK. And of course, the SPLC has gained its reputation by suing Klan groups into bankruptcy. They now stand accused of funneling money to those very Klan members, propping up the hate threat in order to raise money by claiming to oppose it. So it's a great trick, and it's a worthwhile read from Tyler O'Neill at the Daily Signal. If you work for a large corporation and there is an opportunity to give from your paycheck or whatever to various groups, they hire these third-party entities like Benevity to connect you and your company to a particular charity of choice. But you will note there will be a surprising lack of conservative or Christian charities, and that is because they use the SPLC as their means of vetting whether a charity is on the level or not, the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so SPLC runs around and calls that racist, that racist, that racist, and these middlemen charity organizations say, well, if they're racist and the SPLC says so, then we won't include them on the menu of corporate giving opportunities for employees. So just know that and call your company's attention to it. If you're watching this and you work for a large corporation and you say, it's odd, I don't notice many conservative or Christian organizations that I can give to, might call that attention, call your attention to the HR department and let them know about this story. The SPLC has tricked corporate America into blacklisting conservatives. Democrat AGs are behind the lawfare coordinated with leftist groups about how to stop Trump. This from the Federalist. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays on Thursday announced she is dismissing her years-long witch hunt against Donald Trump's allies while desperately clinging to hope she can soon resurrect it. Perhaps a new motion filed in Maricopa County Court alleging Mays and fellow far-left attorneys general from multiple swing states engaged in prosecutorial collusion has forced her hand. Christina Bobb, former RNC counsel for election integrity, has filed a motion to disqualify Myers from the case, accusing the Democrat of working with leftist lawfare groups like the United States Democracy Center in her corrupt prosecution. A supplemental filing on the motion obtained by the Federalist asserts that the coordinated campaign originated from a small group of politically motivated lawyers to pursue partisan interests. Lawfare was very, very real. Trump and all his associates were targeted. Christina Bobb, one of them. This is another very lengthy piece in the Federalist. If you're interested in learning more about lawfare and the way dirty Democrat AGs across the country coordinated to target President Trump and his allies state by state, this is an exhaustive piece at the Federalist written by Matt Kittle. Democrat AGs behind lawfare coordinated with leftist groups about how to stop Trump. This is a surefire ratings bonanza over at ABC. Are you ready for this? Oh, man, Aaron, I know how much you love Jimmy Kimmel anyway. It's appointment TV, and if you don't watch it, I know you always either make sure you're watching it on YouTube after or set your DVR. You never miss an episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live, Aaron. I know how much you love him. So you'll be thrilled to hear that he's going to take some time away. Have you heard who he's going to have guest host for him? You want to guess who? I'll give you a hint. Somebody who doesn't like Trump.
Oh, great. Colbert?
Close. It is someone who has left the country and hates Trump. has driven themselves.
O'Donnell?
Yes, very good.
Oh
very
my
nice.
God.
Yes, they're resurrecting Rosie O'Donnell apparently from the post-millennial. Jimmy Kimmel has said that during the next 2 months while he's off the job, a list of various hosts will be filling his spot, including Rosie. I'll be taking the next 2 months off, this time voluntarily, Jimmy Kimmel said. However, the show is set to go on. Kimmel named a potential group of guest hosts filling in. Tiffany Haddish, Coleman Domingo, Ike Barinholtz, Anthony Anderson, and Jelly Roll. I literally know one of those people. Aaron, Tiffany Haddish, I'm just going to ask you because you're younger than me. Do you know who Tiffany Haddish is?
No.
Do you know who Coleman Domingo is?
No.
You know who Ike Barinholtz is?
No.
How about Anthony Anderson?
Sounds familiar. Don't bring an image to mind.
Yeah, Anthony Anderson sounds kind of familiar to me too. How about Jelly Roll?
Yes, I know who that is.
I do too. That's a country singer, right? Yeah.
Country's a strong word.
He's
for
been a
what he
crossover
does.
country guy anyway, right?
Yeah, progressive and contemporary bro country.
He's got the tattoos on his face and everything. He used to be really big, and now he's kind of like lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, former resident of our correctional facilities.
That's right. As a special treat for our commander-in-chief, I asked one of his all-time favorites, Rosie O'Donnell, to be here to keep the hits coming as one of the celebrities that will be filling in for Jim. What the hell is Jimmy Kimmel taking 2 months off for, by the way? Have we heard? Doesn't say. Where the hell's he going? 2 months off.
The fact it says voluntary makes me feel it's not voluntary.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the best you got? I mean, you can't get look, I know 2 months is a long time, but I mean, to ask a celebrity to this speaks to how completely low rent. We had a clip last week, and I didn't play it, of Tom Hanks, who was stopped on the red carpet at Toy Story 5 or whatever by MSNBC or MS Now or whatever they call themselves now. And Tom Hanks said, yeah, let me stop and make sure I talk to your 800 viewers. That's what big time, big shot celebrities, that's what they think of kind of mainstream cable news and traditional television now. They don't want anything to do with it. They think it's a waste of time. They know they don't reach anybody. Jimmy Kimmel doesn't have an audience, and major celebrity. I mean, look at this list. Who the hell is Coleman Domingo? I literally don't know. Ike Barinholtz, Tiffany Haddish. I mean, look, I'm sure these people are great for the paycheck and the exposure to whatever extent they'll get the exposure on ABC's late night comedy show. I put comedy in air quotes. But no major star whose name you actually know wants to do this. They'd never lower themselves. What is it? I don't know what that'd be like. I'm not even sure. What's the analogy? Like a professional golfer being asked to go manage a miniature golf course or something. It's kind of sad. A couple of other, just before we get out of here today, Democrat socialist on verge of becoming D.C. mayor puts city on collision course with Trump. A Democratic socialist candidate in the mold of Zoran Mamdani is now going to be on a collision course with Trump administration's plan to remake the nation's capital city. Okay. Kenyon McDuffie. Democrat socialist candidate Janice Lewis George, clinching the Democrat nomination, securing the mayor's seat in the general election with no opposition. So there will be a new D.C. mayor named Janice Lewis George, in the spirit of Mamdani. And Trump is supposedly, if you were to believe this story, quaking in his boots over it. I doubt it. Much like the current outgoing mayor of D.C., all too happy to have President Trump's control of D.C., helping it not descend into violent crime and cleaning it up. Illegal immigrants across the United States are getting financial aid for college. State financial aid continues to expand within higher education, allowing money to go to eligible illegal immigrant students. How are you eligible if illegal? This from HeartlanderNews.com, by the way. If you haven't gone there, please do. HeartlanderNews.com. Currently, around 21 states and D.C., the aforementioned, offer in-state tuition eligibility to certain illegal immigrant students, and 18 states in D.C. provide access to state financial aid programs. For example, at the University of California School, the base in-state tuition is roughly $15,000 annually. For non-residents, the base tuition is over $31,000, which means eligible illegal immigrants are essentially receiving $16,000 a year in aid. That's Democrat management for you. And then this, one more before we get out of here today. Seattle electric rates are expected to increase 19% over the next 2 years. Why would that be? The good progressive city of Seattle. Rising utility costs will likely mean customers of Seattle City Light will expect back-to-back 9.5% annual rate hikes over the next 2 years. Hello, Seattle, are you listening? The rate hikes, which would start in 2027, are related to a backlog of infrastructure products. Right. The presentation shows that an average resident could pay $10 more per month or $120 more per year. Seattle City Light estimates that by 2025, it will need more than 3,500 new megawatts of power, double what it uses today. New power will also be costly. And why? Want to guess, Aaron? Why is it going to be difficult? So Seattle needs more power, and it's going to cost residents much more. And here's the hint. It's how they're going to have to produce more power to get it to the residents. It's going to cost residents more because of a particular way in which they have to get the power to their residents. You want to guess why? How?
There's
a certain way it's got to be delivered.
I have no idea.
People's homes are only to be powered in Seattle by the wind and by solar power.
Seattle? Solar?
Yeah. Go figure.
Cloudiest city in the world.
Yeah, that's a great pickup there, Aaron. New power will be costly because it has to come from solar, wind, or alternative sources. Washington state law bars new power being put online from any fossil fuels. Back in March, the utility entered into a $1.5 billion settlement with some native tribes as well, allowing Seattle City Light to continue using hydroelectric dams on the Skagit River to supply electricity to Seattle customers. So there you go. The green agenda of the American left is now going to cost Seattle customers for power more than they've ever paid before, and they have no cheaper alternatives. They're going to have to pay more for solar and wind and hydroelectric. That is Democrat governance. And I tell you what, if you don't get control of elections, if you don't get control of these fraudulent elections in places like Chicago and places like LA and places like Washington State, undoubtedly, I'm sure, if bipartisan looks under the hood at elections, if bipartisan watchers aren't available, if ID isn't implemented in these left-wing places, Democrats will continue to destroy these otherwise lovely states and cities. There is no way the Democrat Party continues to enjoy the support of people who are paying exorbitantly ever higher rates when they know there are cheaper options. It's madness, but here we are. And, you know, the left is celebrating the Zoran Mamdanis who promised more of it, and this lunatic who was just elected in D.C. So that's the state of things. That's going to do it for us today. Hope you'll keep up on all the latest news all day long and all week long from America's Heartland. Go straight to heartlandernews.com for all of it and subscribe to Heartlander News right here. Hope you will on YouTube. Give us a like, maybe a comment too if you're so inclined. Getting ready to have a great week. Glad you spent some of it with us right here on Heartlander News. See you next time.